Have you ever, wondered how a room full of verified geniuses can collectively make just the dumbest decisions imaginable?
Oh, absolutely. It happens way more often than people want to admit.
Right. Like how a team where every single individual has an IQ over, say, 120 can somehow operate with a collective IQ of 63.
Yeah, that is a deeply uncomfortable realization for any professional, especially when you're in the middle of it.
You have probably lived this scenario. You are working on this massive project.
Yeah.
You have painstakingly assembled all the right experts in the room. The hours are long, the coffee is flowing, and yet somehow you look around and realize, nobody's actually learning.
Exactly. You are all just spinning your wheels.
Just repeating the exact same mistakes you made on the last project.
You have an organization overflowing with brilliant individuals, but the system itself is just failing. The entire operation is somehow, less than the sum of its parts.
And that is the core mission of our deep dive today. We are exploring why highly intelligent people repeatedly create results that nobody actually wants, and more importantly, how we can fix that dynamic.
It's a huge problem to tackle.
It really is. So to figure this out, we are pulling from a really fascinating stack of sources today. We have a detailed analysis of the architecture, engineering, construction, and asset management industry, which is often just called AEC.
Right, the AEC sector.
Yeah. And we are coupling that with Peter Senge's foundational 1990 book, The Fifth Discipline. Plus, we are decoding this really interesting conceptual model called the Diamond Framework.
To set the stage here, we should probably establish who Peter Senge actually is.
Oh, good call. Go ahead.
So he is a systems scientist and a senior lecturer at MIT. And the core observation that basically drove his entire career is that modern organizations possess massive amounts of expertise.
Like, a lack of raw knowledge is almost never the actual issue, right?
Exactly. The real bottleneck is that companies constantly confuse training with learning. They think they're the same thing.
Wait, really? How does he differentiate them?
Well, training is merely the acquisition of knowledge. You sit in a seminar, you get a binder, but learning fundamentally means actually changing your behavior based on that knowledge.
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense. So taking what you know and actually doing something different.
Precisely.
Okay, let's unpack this using the AEC industry context from our sources, because it is the perfect pressure cooker for this problem. Imagine the ultimate construction project team.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You have an architect with decades of award-winning experience. You have a structural engineer who understands every minute technical requirement. A general contractor who knows construction sequencing inside and out.
The dream team.
Exactly. Even the BIM team, like the building information modeling folks, they have produced these flawless 3D deliverables. On paper, it's perfect. And yet, design information still arrives late.
Right, and the coordination meetings just turn into Groundhog Day.
Yes. You're revisiting the exact same unresolved clashes week after week. It's like an all-star sports team that looks amazing on paper, but keeps losing to rookies because they've never actually practiced together.
That is a phenomenal way to visualize it. What's fascinating here is that the breakdown doesn't happen within the individuals. It happens in the spaces between the disciplines.
The spaces between them, I like that.
Yeah, knowledge gets trapped, it gets locked away in an obscure email thread, or it's buried on page 14 of some meeting minutes, or it just stays stuck inside one person's head.
Right, and the lessons flagged on one project just completely evaporate before the next one even breaks ground.
Exactly. Everyone is furiously working, but the organization itself essentially has amnesia. Senge realized that becoming a true learning organization requires a massive psychological shift in how we view that specific friction.
What kind of shift?
Well, instead of hunting for a culprit and asking who made the mistake, you have to start asking what conditions allowed this mistake to occur in the first place.
Oh, wow. That completely changes the dynamic of a meeting. But, finding the problem is one thing, but actually changing those conditions requires a solid framework.
It absolutely does.
And our source article shares this great personal anecdote about exactly that. The author was developing a conceptual model back in 2002, and he showed it to his uncle.
I love this story.
Yeah, his uncle just stared at it for a few minutes and gave him a clear directive. He said, "Find Senge. Read The Fifth Discipline." It became this total light bulb moment.
Because Senge laid out 5 specific disciplines that a company needs to master to actually learn.
Right. And we should look at those disciplines not as a corporate checklist, but as actual mechanisms for removing that friction you mentioned earlier.
Yes. So the first one Senge identifies is personal mastery.
Wait, let me stop you right there.
Hmm.
In an industry like construction or tech or finance, which is built on incredibly tight margins and brutal deadlines, isn't something called personal mastery just a philosophical luxury we can't afford?
It definitely sounds like one.
Right. It sounds like we're asking project managers to go meditate on a mountain or something.
It sounds like a luxury until you calculate the staggering cost of rework. I mean, mastery here doesn't mean dominance or spiritual enlightenment.
Okay, so what does it mean in this context?
It is about approaching your daily work and your lifelong learning the way an artist approaches a canvas.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's a continuous, deep commitment to personal proficiency and growth. The mechanism here is clarity. A person with high personal mastery constantly clarifies what is truly important to them.
And they assess their skills, honestly.
Exactly. They relentlessly assess the current reality of their skills without bias.
Yeah.
They don't hide their knowledge gaps, they actively seek to close them.
I see. So if the individual gears in our engine aren't constantly refining themselves, the whole machine eventually seizes up.
Precisely. But even the most refined individual gear will fail if the design of the engine itself is flawed. And this trap of trapped knowledge, the friction in the system, usually starts with invisible assumptions.
You mean the mental model Senge talks about?
Yes, the second discipline.
Our sources highlight these as deeply ingrained assumptions, or like images that dictate how we understand the world. The crazy part is, we usually don't even know they are running in the background.
They act as a total filter on reality. The text gives a highly relatable example of this.
Oh, right, the clothing one.
Yeah. You see a coworker who dresses really elegantly, and your brain automatically fires off the assumption she's a country club person.
Right.
But you see someone dressed shabbily, and your brain says, he doesn't care what others think.
And we do this in corporate environments every single day. We have tacit assumptions about what can or cannot be done.
All the time.
Like, a project manager might assume the client will never approve a budget increase for better materials, so they never even pitch the sustainable option.
Exactly. The mental model instantly kills the idea before it is ever tested against reality.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
So how do we fix that?
That brings us to the third discipline, which is team learning. It directly tackles how we overcome those limiting models.
Okay, how does that work?
Team learning is the discipline of developing extraordinary capacities for coordinated action. It relies on the realization that the intelligence of the team can actually exceed the intelligence of the individuals in it.
But only if they learn how to think together.
Right. Exactly. Under real stressful conditions, they have to learn how to actively surface those mental models and debate them without it turning into a turf war.
And that requires alignment, which logically brings us to the fourth discipline, shared vision. Though I should note, our source article actually extends Senge's original concept here.
Right. It upgrades it to shared vision and shared mission.
Yes. And that distinction changes everything about how a team operates. Shared vision is the aspiration. It tells everyone where we want to go.
It is the picture of the future we seek to create together.
Exactly. But the source adds shared mission because mission describes how we intend to get there.
Which is crucial.
Right, because you can have a team that shares a vision of building a groundbreaking zero-carbon skyscraper. But if the structural engineer thinks the mission is to do it as cheaply as possible,
And the architect thinks the mission is to use untested experimental materials.
the vision will just collapse. You need alignment on execution. So you have these four disciplines: personal mastery, mental models, team learning, and shared vision and mission.
Yep, the first four.
But Senge's book is called The Fifth Discipline. What is the fifth one that ties all this together?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the fifth discipline is systems thinking. It is the conceptual framework that integrates the other four.
Oh, so.
Well, instead of looking at little snapshots of isolated parts of a system like blaming a missed deadline purely on the scheduling department systems, thinking allows us to see the invisible lacework of interrelated actions over time.
The invisible lacework. That's a great phrase.
Yeah. It lets us map the actual feedback loops. It shows us how a minor change in the architect's material choice creates a cascading delay for the plumbing contractor, like 3 months down the line.
Okay, so conceptually, I am totally on board. But the obvious question you have to be asking as a listener is, how do these highly abstract disciplines map onto actual, messy Tuesday morning workflows?
That is the big question.
And this is where the visual diagrams from our sources come into play. We are going to try and translate these visuals for you.
It's a bit tricky on audio, but we can do it.
Let's start with the first image, which the source calls 9.1.1 diamond gray. Imagine a flat, two-dimensional gray diamond shape.
Got it.
At the four outer points of this diamond, you have rigid constraints, you have politics, economics, physical, and social realities.
The standard boundaries.
Right. And inside this gray boundary is a standard corporate process cycle that basically just goes from defined task to planning, development, implementation, assessment, reflection, lessons, and finally, character.
Okay, so that gray diamond represents the traditional stagnant organization.
The one struggling to learn.
Exactly. It is a system heavily constrained by bureaucracy and entropy. It prioritizes the preservation of the status quo over actual adaptation to new realities.
So the inner cycle is still running, right?
You can still have that inner process cycle running, yeah. You can plan and implement a project, but those rigid outer points keep the system completely boxed in.
So learning might occasionally happen, but it's limited by the structure.
Fundamentally limited, yes.
But then, our sources show this massive evolutionary jump. The next image is called 3.5 A Spire 1. The framework transforms into a 3D shape.
This is where it gets dynamic.
Yeah, a vibrant red pyramid sits right on top of an inverted gray pyramid. It looks like the system is physically breaking out of the 2D plane and growing upward.
It represents a system moving from stagnation to flow, life replacing rigidity, negentropy replacing entropy.
Wait, hold on. Negentropy.
Yes.
For those of us who aren't MIT system scientists, what does that actually mean in plain English?
Okay, think of entropy as rust. In physics, entropy is the natural tendency of any closed system to gradually decline into disorder and chaos.
Okay, that makes sense.
If you don't maintain a car, it rusts and breaks down. Bureaucracies do the exact same thing. They naturally decay into inefficiency.
And negentropy is the opposite of that.
Exactly. Negentropy is the active, ordering energy that a living system uses to maintain itself, grow, and become more complex.
So the shift to that 3D red pyramid represents an organization becoming a living, adapting system rather than just a rusting machine.
You nailed it, which leads directly to the final, most detailed iteration of this model.
Yes, the image labeled 10.2 AC red diamond, the advanced cut.
Tell us about the advanced cut.
The shape is totally dynamic now. Those rigid outer constraints, the politics, the economics, they're completely gone.
Just stripped away.
Yeah, they have been replaced by Senge's disciplines. The outer points are now vision, shared mission, team learning, context, mental model, and personal mastery. And flanking the sides of this new diamond are the active verbs evolve and exchange.
This is such a critical aha moment for applying Senge's work in the real world.
Why is that?
Because the 5 disciplines aren't just abstract posters you hang in the break room. In this advanced cut model, we clearly see that the disciplines emerge naturally from the inner process cycle of doing the actual work.
Walk me through the mechanics of that. How does an abstract concept like personal mastery emerge from a standard workflow?
Look at where personal mastery sits on the diagram. It is positioned right next to the process stages of lessons, character, and defined task.
Oh, I see it.
It shows us that the mechanism for mastery is the work itself. Every task you complete produces a lesson. Reflecting on that lesson shapes your professional character.
And then your newly shaped character determines how intelligently you define your very next task.
Exactly. Mastery is simply that continuous spinning cycle in action.
That makes so much sense. It completely takes it out of the realm of philosophy and makes it a tangible output. What about mental models? How do we change those invisible assumptions?
Well, mental models sit next to assessment, reflection, and lessons. You assess what happened on the project, you reflect on why it happened, and through those extracted lessons, your deeply ingrained assumptions are either validated or shattered.
The system becomes a living, breathing process.
Right. The disciplines are actively generated by the friction of doing the work.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Let me play devil's advocate for a second, because we need to address the elephant in the room here.
Bring it on.
We are talking about all this intense human processing, right? This deep reflection to stop information from getting lost. But we are living in the age of artificial intelligence.
We certainly are.
I can feed 10,000 pages of project documents, change orders, and meeting minutes into an AI, and it will instantly summarize them. It can analyze vast data sets, cross-reference building codes, and identify 3D model clashes in milliseconds.
It's incredibly fast, yes.
So doesn't AI just solve this whole trapped knowledge problem for us? Do we really need to sit around examining our mental models when an algorithm can just hand us the optimized answer?
It is a very seductive argument, but it fundamentally misunderstands what learning actually is.
Okay, tell me why.
AI is an incredibly powerful tool for processing information. It can generate 50 design options, uncover hidden supply chain patterns, and drastically improve productivity.
Sure.
But it cannot assume responsibility for the consequences of a decision. It cannot determine which of those 50 options actually align with the values and constraints of the human beings involved. An organization can possess perfect access to all the information in the world and still completely fail to learn, because information alone does not change behavior.
Having the data doesn't mean you actually have the courage to act on it, or like the political capital to convince your team to change course.
That is the crux of it. The text introduces a critical concept here called relational intelligence.
Relational intelligence, how does that fit in?
Systems thinking helps us see the complex, interrelated relationships in a project. But relational intelligence is our capacity to actually work within those relationships.
Because AI cannot build trust.
Exactly. AI might flag that the architectural design is going to physically clash with the HVAC ductwork.
Right.
But it takes relational intelligence for the mechanical contractor and the lead architect to sit down at a table, trust each other's expertise, and adapt the design without pointing fingers or just guarding their own budgets.
The AI spots the clash, but the humans have to resolve the conflict.
Exactly. In an era where raw information and technical analysis are instantly available to everyone, a team's relational intelligence, their ability to challenge assumptions safely and coordinate action, that becomes the ultimate competitive differentiator.
So the true learning organization remains fundamentally human.
It has to be.
So if humans still have to do the heavy lifting of behavioral change, how do we actually build that muscle without grinding our workflow to a halt?
It's a practical challenge.
Because, let's be real, nobody in the corporate world has time for a 3-day trust-building retreat every time a pipe gets installed backward or, a software launch gets delayed.
No, of course not.
Usually, teams just wait until the entire 2-year project is over to do a lessons learned workshop.
Which is objectively the worst possible time to do it.
Why is that?
Because by the time a massive project concludes, the team is completely exhausted. They're already disbanding to new assignments.
Oh, true.
The immediate context of why a decision was made 18 months ago is entirely gone. The lessons just get written into a sterile PDF report, stuffed into a digital drawer, and lost forever.
Well, our sources provide a brilliant, highly practical alternative to that graveyard of PDFs. It's a 15-minute learning rhythm.
Yes, the 15-minute rhythm.
It is a specific shift in habit. You do not wait for the end of the project. You run this quick exercise after any major milestone, a critical design decision, or even just a particularly difficult client meeting.
And it is composed of 5 specific questions.
Let's walk the listener through the mechanics of them. What's the first one?
Question 1 is purpose. You basically ask the room, what were we trying to achieve today? Did everyone actually understand the objective in the exact same way?
And this simple clarifying question immediately tests and strengthens the shared vision and shared mission of the team.
Exactly. Then question 2 is reality. What actually happened?
And the crucial mechanism here is forcing the team to separate observable facts from emotional interpretations. I love that so much.
It's vital.
Because it is so easy to sit in a meeting and say, marketing ruined the product launch. But that is an interpretation. The actual fact is, marketing sent the promotional email 2 days past the deadline.
Right. Grounding it in facts exposes those hidden mental models and stops the blame game in its tracks.
What's the third question?
Question 3 focuses on relationships. What happened between us during this milestone? Remember, the engine breaks down in the spaces between the parts.
Right. Did the structural team and the design team communicate openly? Did everyone have a chance to contribute? Or did one person dominate the conversation?
Was trust strengthened or weakened? This is how you actively practice and develop relational intelligence in real time.
Question 4 is learning. What should we do differently next time? And there's a very, very strict rule in the source text for this one.
Okay.
You identify exactly 1 practical improvement, not 10. Just 1.
Why just 1?
Because you just agree to change 1 meeting practice or 1 approval process or 1 communication rule. Learning is only valuable when it changes future behavior, and human beings just cannot sustainably change 10 behaviors at once.
Focus is the mechanism of change. I completely agree.
And finally, question 5 is adaptation.
Right. What broader capability are we developing as a team? Are we becoming more collaborative? Are we more adaptable to client changes, more accountable?
This question connects the immediate mundane task right back to personal mastery and the overarching character of the organization.
It is so brilliant because it is so incredibly fast. It is just 15 minutes of focused reflection.
But the secret is that the magic isn't actually in the questions themselves, is it?
No, it's not. The true value lies in the consistency of the rhythm. If you do this exercise once, you just had a nice chat. But if you do this every 2 weeks, over the course of a year, learning shifts from being a rare, isolated event to becoming the ingrained default culture of the organization.
Invisible patterns of failure become glaringly obvious.
Yes, and trust compounding over time replaces that friction we talked about.
So what does this all mean for you listening right now? Let's bring this right down to ground level.
Always a good idea.
Whether you are building billion-dollar skyscrapers in the AEC industry, or writing code for a tech startup, or running a local logistics company, the rules of survival in a rapidly shifting landscape are exactly the same.
They apply universally.
It's not about knowing the most facts right now. The world is changing entirely too fast for static knowledge to save you. It is about continuously cycling through assessment, reflection, and extracting lessons.
It is about actively using those lessons to shape your professional character so you can tackle tomorrow's task better than you did today's. The ultimate thesis to take away here is that the future does not belong to the organizations with the largest data lakes or the most sophisticated algorithms.
No, it doesn't.
The organizations that will truly flourish are the ones that learn how to seamlessly combine artificial intelligence with human, collective, and relational intelligence. Technology will continually accelerate the flow of information, but the future belongs entirely to those who can change their behavior the fastest.
I couldn't have said it better. I want to leave you with a final, lingering question to ponder on your own today.
A provocative one, I hope.
Always. Imagine your team perfectly documents every single mistake it has ever made. You build a flawless AI-powered database of every error, every scheduling clash, and every miscommunication.
Okay.
But if you never actually challenge your underlying mental models, if your day-to-day behavior never actually shifts, are you truly a learning organization? Or are you just a highly efficient archivist of your own failures?